Please subscribe and ring the bell to never miss an update. Hello everyone, welcome to the country. Today on Lady Mary Beth, I'm taking you along to the Hodges Farm Antique Show in Sale. It's more like Round Top used to be, with primitive antiques. And I will introduce you to the owner, Dawn Hodges, who is a TikTok star. Join me. Step back in time with me to the 19th century with this home and farm in a nostalgic setting on 93 acres. Welcome to Hodges Farm, where they've dressed it for fall. They're ready for customers to start shopping the antique show tomorrow. It goes on all week. This sale is held twice yearly and the same week as the Round Top Antique Show. We will have a tour of the 1865 farmhouse and the 1850 cabin. I'm delighted to introduce you to Dawn Hodges. She's a TikTok star. You can find her there at Hodges Farm, Texas, and on Facebook, Hodges Farm, Texas Cooking. Thanks for the warm welcome.
Thank you. I'm so glad you're here. This is our 1865 farm place, and we've been here since 1971, and we'd love for you to come visit anytime. And we have our brand new Hodges Farm cookbook for sale.
I will link her cookbook in the video description so that you can order one as well. These are fantastic recipes, and stay tuned. I have a surprise for you that I will announce during the show today. And now we get a peek at her beautiful home that is historically accurate, even with the original paint on the walls and great primitives. And you will get to meet Leroy, his favorite spot to nap in the house. And he's got lots of visitors here and more to come for the show. And he is settling in. It's definitely a welcoming home. And I'm learning so much today about primitives. Many of these have come from this area, Sealy, Cat Spring, Belleville, and some are actually from New England. And you'll notice the very practical items on top of the baskets, the stoneware, very indicative of one of the earlier homes, and great quilt storage. You may wonder why there's such muted colors with primitive textiles, and that's because they did not have synthetic dyes. They used natural elements such as madder root for rich reds, even some browns, depending on the water, with hard water that had a lot of magnesium and calcium for a rich red. Saffron was used for yellow, and indigo for blue and purple hues. This is a corner cabinet that is called Butterfly. Do you see the shape of these shelves? Isn't that interesting? And some of our favorite Flow blue. Look at all the detail here. Of course, I have to turn it over and look for a back stamp. And now we will peek into one of the guest rooms. Just love to see all the authentic items that Dawn features in her home. It truly is like stepping back in time to an early farmhouse. And we see some very useful items displayed on the nightstand. Of course, everything would have been hand sewn in that day. I like the use of everyday items, particularly those that are a bit vintage or antique. And here we have some simple spools of thread. We did save some from our home in Germany as we renovated, and I have featured these in our library off of the upstairs bedroom. And I think that that is just a really unique way to add some character to your space. Let's peek into this bedroom that has some Texas primitives with some very interesting faux painting. This is something I've also seen in the Victorian homes on Galveston Island, where they would have traveling painters. These most likely would have been done by the original homeowners, and it's a way to embellish wood furniture that may not be the finest quality. And now we have a piece of history with this. Such detail with the simple furniture. This bedroom features Texas primitive furniture, and you will notice that it actually has some faux wood grain that has been painted on, and this was definitely original to the piece. The bed also has some faux wood graining, although it is slightly newer than this piece here. Definitely primitive furniture. It's like visiting a museum. Everything is authentic to the period, and this is where she lives. It's very homey, welcoming. You can have a seat by the fire. And you will also see a lot of natural elements. This would have been something that you would have seen in an 18th century farmhouse in early America. And she also has some great collections. We will also get a peek at her kitchen where she does her filming for the TikTok channel. I will, of course, include a link in the video description so that you can join her there and enjoy some of her recipes. She's very entertaining and authentic. This is Rockingham pottery, and this stoneware is a staple. You would have had pitchers, plates, platters. It's a type of dripware dipped in brown manganese. And those cakes are delicious. I got to take the pumpkin home, and she's been busy baking for her guests that will be visiting for the show and some of the vendors. Again, some useful items. And here's a Rockingham bowl. This is sometimes mistakenly referred to as Bennington ware, after the town in Vermont that was home to the United States Pottery Company, which produced Rockingham glazed wares as well. And she uses all of these items. It's not just for display. She's got her mixing bowls close at hand. And if you've watched her on TikTok, I would love to hear about your favorite recipes. This 1850 cabin came from Cat Spring, Texas, which is not far from here, between Sealy and Belleville. And I'm sure there's an amazing history here, built by German immigrants. Let's take a look. This historic cabin, I was told, was used as a corn crib, which is a type of granary used to dry and store the corn, and the original owner or its descendants used to take naps inside. Isn't that interesting? And they had it moved to Hodges Farm. It's an idyllic setting, truly is, and now it is all ready for Christmas. And we'll see some primitive decor, which works very well with farmhouse. A primitive Christmas can be achieved by using natural elements, thrift store finds, homemade items, and anything to create a country accent or accessory. You will see the muted colors here with Santa, even though he has a vibrant red, and we'll talk more about the natural dyes that would have been used in the 1800s. Madder roots produced strong red dyes. It could also help with making pinks and greens when you were dyeing textiles. It's neat that our ancestors truly lived off the land and used natural elements. These handcrafted primitive Santas are also made using things we find in nature, including 100% wool fabric. These boiled wool cardinals are wonderful to have nesting in your tree, and they do bring luck. You could have a whole tree decorated with these. We have some handmade jams and handcrafted items. You'll notice the gingerbread men are on old cheese graters. Very clever. And I like to shop antique fairs because you find some interesting items instead of always going to your local craft store. This handmade quilt is a steal at $45, and you will notice it was made according to the primitive style, where you have muted colors, and at that time you would have had hand-stitched quilts, usually 9 stitches per inch on the earlier pieces, and they are very much in keeping with the primitive style with the quilt. Perfect for your fall table. This machine-made lace, I remember from the 1970s, well priced at $8. Let's preview this primitive antique show and sale. Primitives are by definition the first or earliest of their kind. In this case, it would be anything you would find in an American farmhouse in the early days, such as farm tools, crocks, and early American furniture. The vendors are busy setting up for the show, and there are a lot of handmade items, dried flowers, quilts, crocks, and even art, and of course some primitive furnishings. And many of these items have come from area estate sales, and you have a little bit of Texas here, including some saddles. This one is priced at $200, and that is a Western saddle, you can tell because it has a horn, which helps with cattle roping. And even old barn doors and panels can be reused. This wardrobe, back before they had built-in closets, is $110. $55 for this door. You can see where the hinges once were. They are busy getting set up, and I do see some fun and practical items right here. You can incorporate into your kitchen, even use for decor. Place a quilt rolled up inside. Crocs may be useful and highly collectible today, but they were actually an everyday essential before there was household refrigeration. They were used to store butter, cured meats, even ferment cabbage to make sauerkraut. And remember, this area was settled by German immigrants. You probably have heard me talk about this on the channel, and we did see quite a few at Nothing Ordinary Antiques just down the street here in Belleville. An English saddle is built quite differently than a Western, which was designed for long days on horseback. This is a dressage saddle. It was made in Germany. It's priced at $200, and they give us an equivalent eBay price. They are getting set for fall with the dried flowers and a primitive table with a lovely centerpiece. You notice that brass candle adds warmth for the fall look. And this pine bench is well priced for $125. Primitives go for quite a lot. This and round top would probably be $400 or more. This cowhide chair is $35. You're definitely getting better pricing shopping at a country antique fair. And if you're going to Round Top, you can certainly mark your calendars for next fall and pop into Hodges Farm. This pine table is $195, which is an excellent price. This whiskey box is certainly still useful, has some life left in it. Tennessee whiskey. And more dried flowers. I'll tell you more about these in just a minute. I like that they take things from the farm to share with us today. And these are well priced at $8. These soap berries have been picked on the farm and dried. The berries contain saponin, which is a natural element that has a low sudsing detergent, and this was used by Native Americans to make soap. We've got some canning going on. That's when you know you're in the country, living off the land. These small gourd necklaces are $10. I did buy one of these. Corn husk garlands you see more and more in the big box stores. And of course, this has been sourced from the farm. And to make these, you need to soak the dried husks in water so that they are more pliable. And I can't think of a better natural way to add some decorative elements. This ochre cabinet is definitely a primitive. You'll see it has that different interior color, which makes it interesting. Priced at $2,400. If you had found this at Round Top, it would probably be $5,000 or more. It's highly collectible, and I find their prices are a lot better here. They do have some documents, marriage certificates, and samplers. These were all primitives from the early days of Germans settling in Texas. In fact, they're all in German as well, those wedding and baptismal certificates. And now we can have a look at some of their wares here, all ready for the autumn season. Such creativity with the gourds.
They've got fabulous gourds. It is a warm season vining plant, and it bears this hard-shelled fruit. And you can see how they have decorated these and customized them. Imagine placing a candle inside, and it's very well priced. This one is $50, and a lot of love goes into these.
And here's another look at Dawn's cookbook. It's definitely a must-have. The beautiful pages there with photos of her recipes and some great stories about her farm and her life. And she's just such a sensation on TikTok. And stay tuned, I have a surprise to share with you about this cookbook. And we've got some great Christmas items here. And again, the farmhouse look pairs very well with primitive. It does have some roots there. Wreaths, decor, lots of Santas, and nativities. They also have some older vintage items. Who would have thought that a Brer Rabbit table syrup can would be valuable, or Karo syrup? Those actually sold very quickly. This is a wonderful bed cover. I actually have the same one. It's heavy and it really finishes off your bed nicely. I think it's a great look. These are fun for Halloween and fall. And the vendors are mostly from this area of Texas, and they do shop a lot of the local farms and estate sales and bring us some items that have not been out of the families in years and generations. So it's a great opportunity to find authentic items. This is identical to my grandmother's rolling pin for $12. I actually have hers and use it in my baking. First one I've seen that's absolutely identical. Look at the felt, boiled wool. I really like that. Got some spongeware. Pottery was very popular in that era because it's something that they could make. And the East Coast was known for that. That mirror's $70. And look, we have a Santa. He looks interesting. You could definitely put him in the center of your table. If you had a hot cocoa party, that would be such fun to use him in decor. And get some ideas too. Blessings. And he's only $85 and he's on wheels. A shaker pantry box for $28. That's great for stacking, even using in a centerpiece as a plateau. This basket is $10, very purposeful. You could hide your card keys in that and put that on your counter. Lots of great storage with these vintage items, including chests. But these have traveled. And there's Lucy. She is absolutely precious. And now we are on another section of the farm and discovering some great things here. An old crib for $3.25. That would be more of a collector's piece. Maybe you could store your dolls in that. And an amazing piece of furniture. Great price.
A server is all-purpose. It can fit in any room of your home, an entryway, dining room, bedroom. At $25, this is a steal. You could certainly change out the pulls if you like, make them more historically appropriate. The top part is not included. These are two different pieces, and great storage.
You can measure up with one of these yardsticks. And they all have company information. These were promotional items, and some tools, utensils, and farm implements.
Yardsticks were some of the first promotional items and quite useful. Most households had one. This is the Belleville office for the San Bernard Electric Co-op, and I think we all need a yardstick at home.
And they're just starting to set some things out. I see a two-tiered server, pottery, and silver plate. That teapot is especially nice. You could use that for a floral centerpiece. It's definitely something you could travel with. For $5, that's a great deal. If you're going to an event, it's not breakable, which is always a plus. For $2, why not? And this Santa is covered up until the sale starts. I know he will sell quickly. Compotes are practical. You could even set a bowl inside. And these are great deals at $2. You could fill that with your best recipe from Reed and Barton. Useful items here. Some whiskey jugs. You can see that folks on the farm did not throw anything away, and now they're actually something of value. Even those original irons. You have heard of an iron in the fire. Well, that's how they warmed these back then. Definitely a different approach to life. Look at this cast iron teapot for $20. That would have been placed over the fire. And I'm going to show you a composite doll that was made probably of wood shavings and glue.
They have some interesting items here, including a composite doll. Composite because she is not made of a hard plastic or bisque. And you've heard of people with 2 faces. How about a doll with 3 faces to represent our moods of the day? This is my favorite. Okay, let's make her happy again. How about that? It's $150.
This was one of their original commercial kitchens they used to supply to area stores and restaurants. And now they mostly focus on the farm. And I'm finding some neat things here with the blue and white, a touch of chinoiserie, you could say, vintage dishes. That's a pretty plate. It doesn't have to match your set of dishes. That could be an accent piece. This is made in Germany, and that's probably from about the 1920s or 30s at the latest. They do have a variety of items. Old music box. And Waterford crystal. That's the Glandor pattern, the salt and pepper. And there's that Waterford acid etched mark. It's sometimes hard to find. These were priced at $10. But I'm going to let someone else have those since I already have a pair. Though it is rather tempting. Country Roses from Royal Albert. I know many of you collect this pattern. It's a beautiful back stamp. You could certainly mix that with some white dishes or even a gold banded Old Country Roses. And you'll see in the primitive design they have some handmade items. Be a Kind Soul. A vintage tablecloth. I'm always looking for things like this. Really does add interest, especially for a breakfast table. Lots of different decor ideas. And this quilt catches my eye. They are still setting up. They ended up transforming this booth the next day. Let's take a closer look and talk about this very special design.
This is a great example of a crazy quilt. They're using it as a backdrop for their artwork. Crazy quilts were made using different pattern fabrics, often suit material. In this case, I see some upholstery as well, and they have embroidery. These are highly collectible.
It's every little girl's dream with this dollhouse. Some period furnishings, porcelain on the mantle, and a grand staircase. I especially like the chandelier. Very unique, detailed house. You can certainly have some fun with this. That mantle is beautiful. Victorian furnishings, even a federal mirror there in the background. Lots of great ideas today, and I enjoyed my day on the farm.
So glad you joined me today for the Hodges Farm Antique Show and Sale Preview. I learned a lot about primitive furniture and some wonderful handcrafted items made in the style of primitive art and decor. And I have a surprise for you. Like and subscribe, comment on this video, and you'll be entered into a drawing for an autographed copy of Don Hodges' cookbook that's hot off the press, More Country Favorites from Hodges Farm, Texas. Thanks again for joining Lady Mary Beth. Elevate your everyday with Antique Fairs.